It's the Agribusiness Report. I'm Tony St. James. We're joined today by Matt Bottoms. Matt is a producer from Georgia. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So, Georgia, what part of Georgia? And tell us a little about your operation.
All right, I'm from West Central Georgia. I live about an hour south of Atlanta. And we grow small fruit-bearing plants and kind of ship all over the southeast primarily, but plants like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. For the ones in the south, we grow muscadines. A lot of people may not know what that is, but that's one of our main crops. And then we have a small row crop operation as well.
A lot of times when we're thinking of, at least in ag, when we're thinking about production ag, obviously we go to the big row crops, if you will, or maybe the big livestock operations or the cow-calf operations. But what are some of the challenges that we might not know producers of like specialty crops might be dealing with?
Yeah, right now, for us, and I think many specialty crop producers that require a lot of hand labor is the issue. There's not a strong pool of Americans to draw from who want to work outside in the elements, and so we are constantly struggling to try to find people, and sometimes the visa programs are not the easiest to navigate, and so for us that's the biggest issue right now is probably labor.
Glad you brought up labor. The H2A program is one that really we're seeing used from coast to coast,
right,
border to border at this point, right, as well. So obviously very important for ag. Let's talk about some of the challenge. We're going to talk about opportunities as well, and try to talk about some of the positive things, but there are obviously some challenges with the H2A program. If you could just tell Congress to wave a magic wand, what are some things they could do that might be able to help?
Well, there are a lot of things about the program that need to be addressed, and probably one of the hardest things for us the last 2 years is our labor rates have increased almost $3 an hour in less than 2 years. You know, trying to balance that with being able to properly price a product. I mean, if we can't operate at a profit, we'll go out of business soon. And when we really don't understand how that adverse effect wage rate is calculated, it's hard to go into a year planning and properly budgeting to be successful. And so that's one of the first things that I believe needs to be addressed, because the producer is not able to properly prepare for the wage rates that come down the pipe.
We watch markets for corn, soybeans, cattle, hogs, cotton. That's not something that really works for you. How do you determine the price? I mean, is that for the most part usually set before you start the season?
So in the nursery business, and for us, you know, we're able to really look at all of our inputs and be able to really put a pencil to what it is costing us to produce that product, and then try to figure a fair profit margin in on that. And so we are able to price a product more similar to a traditional retail market versus the whims of the Board of Trade, if you will, or what weather event is happening in Brazil or whatever. So we get to taste a little bit of both of those worlds because our operation is split in it. But in the specialty crops, a lot of times we have a little bit more power to control our pricing. But again, it's hard to do that when you don't. Labor is our biggest input cost. Hands down, labor is our biggest input cost, and when that goes up a tremendous percentage, you know, when you've already set prices for the year and it jumps, it's hard to budget for that so that you can keep your profit margins in line.
We've talked about challenges, but I have yet to meet a producer who's not optimistic about the future in some form or fashion. For some producers, it's optimism about a better growing season next year. It might be about maybe some new technology that's coming as well. When you look down the road, what has Matt optimistic?
Well, working through labor issues, I've often said in the last several years that I feel like the opportunities are endless in production agriculture if you have the labor to carry out those different things. And so I'm optimistic about markets. I'm optimistic about changing and different things like that. We've just got to figure out how to have the labor to produce. And, you know, there are different companies that are experimenting with robotics and different things like that. And some of those things are maybe out of the price range for the small producer. But it does give the opportunity through various things to have opportunity for growth and expansion.
You are in Salt Lake City for the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual convention, which means you're a member at the local level. How did you get involved with Farm Bureau, and why do you stay involved?
So I got involved in Farm Bureau. Well, it's kind of like you hear the person say that they were involved 9 months before they were actually here, and that was kind of the case with me. My parents were involved in the Young Farmer Program in the 70s, and so I'm kind of the second generation there. My grandfather was on the county board, and my parents were state achievement winners, and so I was kind of born into it, if you will. And it's funny how things have come full circle. I currently sit on our state board, and I remember when I was getting in late high school and then after college, when I came back to the farm, kind of telling my dad, "Why are you always going to these Farm Bureau meetings?" And because we've got work to do here on the farm. So it was probably in my early mid-20s that I really began to see the value as different legislation on labor or different parts of USDA funding and different things that happen. I really began to see that the voice that Farm Bureau has, and you know, at the end of the day, it is the premier organization in the United States as far as having a voice on the local level, on the state level, and on the national level as well. And so I've just kind of come full circle and really feel like the organization has a lot to offer, and the voice that it has for all types of producers, you know, be it small specialty crop producers up to the largest row crop operators or whatever that may be. There's a voice for dairy farmers, there's a voice for nursery, there's a voice for row crop, there's a voice for any kind of agriculture, and that's been rewarding and refreshing.
Well, Matt, it's good to see you, good to hear your story. Obviously, again, challenges ahead, but we wish you the best in 2024 and can't wait to find out about the great year you had in 2024 when we see you in San Antonio next year.
We hope so.
Okay. Right. Matt Bottoms is a producer from Georgia from the 2024 American Farm Bureau Federation's annual convention in Salt Lake City. I'm Tony St. James. It's the Agribusiness Report.